Okay, well, thank you for joining me here in this Google Hangout video. I'm here just again to really go deep into some of these ideas that I feel are just so helpful to keep really sharing about, because all of us who have chosen to go into the unconscious mind, to go deeper, to really take the spiritual journey, go through periods of pretty intense darkness, and it seems to happen quite often on the spiritual journey. It's like we have to just keep going through these layers, and so I felt it'd be really helpful to share about this topic. And I have my friend Dawn Fernandez here in the class with me again, so maybe you can just quickly say hi, Dawn.
Hello, everybody. Joining you here. Darkness to the light.
Yeah, and I think I'll just kind of get right into it. I was trying to think of a song to play that would fit this topic, but nothing was coming to me except a Simon and Garfunkel song, which I don't know if I'm allowed to play in live Google Hangouts because it's copyrighted, but that song "Bridge Over Troubled Water" was coming to mind, and maybe it's just for me to share a little bit about, because that song is, I always felt it was so comforting. It was a song that it's saying that, when you're weary, when you're feeling down and you need a friend, I will lay myself down. I will be like a bridge over troubled water. So it's kind of like, I always thought of it as, you could think of it as Jesus or the Holy Spirit or any symbol of love saying, I'm here for you. You're not alone. You don't have to go through this darkness alone, and I will lay myself down for you so that you can walk across me. It sounds like a sacrifice idea almost, but it's really just, I will link with you. You can really use the symbol of me as something to link with, so that you can feel that what you're going through is okay, and that you're not alone, that it's not that you're going crazy. I think that's a common fear that people have, is when they start to go on the spiritual journey, they have times when they feel like they're just going totally insane, and I have definitely felt that way. I just recently was watching a video with David Hoffmeister, and he was saying that whenever you feel like you're going insane, just kind of reinterpret it as, you're going in towards sanity. You're going in to that which is sane, and that's really what it is, because the world's perception is upside down. When we think that we're going insane from the world's perspective, like if we're suddenly becoming dysfunctional and we're feeling like we can't maintain our normal routines, it looks bad from the world's perspective, from the perspective of being a productive human citizen in the world, and helping to support the gross national product, and to be a good father, mother, sister, brother, friend, all the roles that we have seemingly identified with in this world. When it seems that we're not able to fulfill those functions, then the world says you're losing it. You're losing your mind, and you got to pull it together. And I've always been so blessed, I feel, to have people in my life. I guess we could say David and the messengers of peace have been the primary ones who've really just encouraged me as I started to go deeper into this experience of letting go of the roles and the responsibilities of the world, and really accepting that my one responsibility is to awaken. They would just say, go with it, just trust, really trust, and let everything fall. It's okay to fall apart. It's okay to seem to lose your mind. Even if it feels like you're losing your mind, it's really just you can't really lose your mind. Your mind is infinite, and it's what you are. But it seems that we're losing our mind because we're losing the mind that we've identified with, the ego mind. That's being dismantled, and so it's just to be expected. I think the message I want to communicate today, and I think that Don and I will start to just share more about in detail, is that it's perfectly safe, and it's to be expected that you're going to go through periods of intensity and disorientation and confusion, and you just have to kind of trust. You just have to allow. You have to just really allow those periods, and do the best you can. This is the hardest part, but do the best you can to not judge them. That's really the only time they become very scary, is when we start to judge and the ego starts to interpret what's happening, which of course it's going to do. So, it's really just a matter of being aware of the judgments when they come up, and just trying to remember that you're not alone, that there's actually people that you can link with. You can link with myself, you can link with people in David Hoffmeister's organization who are all committed to this path as well. There's a whole we could say team of mighty companions that are here on this planet with you, who are going through this process as well, and who've gone through these experiences many, many times. And we will always just simply hold the space and remind you that you're safe. And everything that seems to be falling apart is meant to fall apart. So I think I'll just pause there and see if Dawn, if you had anything that you felt to share on this topic as well.
What you just said reminded me of a memory. The Buddha, when there was a war, they put this covering over the Buddha that would make him appear where he wasn't the priceless gold that he was. So eventually there was cracks in the outer shell, and someone looked in the cracks in this huge mammoth statue of Buddha, and they said, that looks like gold. And so they started peeling back the layers and peeling it back and peeling it back. And lo and behold, there's this mammoth statue of Buddha, but Buddha is like pure gold. So for centuries upon centuries, I know people have probably heard this analogy or this story, but there was this priceless treasure hidden underneath that would not have been found if the first crack, the crack in the shell, like we can use this as an analogy of our egos, and that first crack, it doesn't feel good. It hurts. It hurts. Let's just be real. Let's just be honest. It does not feel good. But then as you peel back and you peel back and you peel back and you peel back, like you said in one video, it's like the onion. You just keep peeling back the layers. And then you see this priceless treasure. And I think that's what we have to remember when we're in. It seems like all we can see is the outside, or all we can see is the darkness, is that there is something priceless we're all going for. And it's so beautiful to remember that we're not in this alone. Because a lot of the fear of part of the journey is, oh my God, I am alone. And it's just not true. And I too, like you, want to be that beacon for others who are going through the darkness. It's like, yes, you have Erik as a resource, or David Hoffmeister, but myself too. Reach out. If you're going through darkness, reach out. We are mighty companions here to hold each other's hands. It even talks about it. 2 by 2, we go to the light together. And we need each other. And I think that's what because like when you first start in the spiritual journey, a lot of people think, oh, I have to go run off to a cave and I'm all alone in this and I'm just going to meditate my way to heaven. But what Course in Miracles is showing us is we need each other. We need our brother's hand to hold us through the darkness and into the light. And I join with you in that message. I join you with that whole journey. And to remember that we're not just looking on the outside, but to remember when you're diving in, you will meet darkness. It will be scary. And I'm testable, you will get through it. It's not the end.
Mm. Yeah, that's so helpful. That's beautiful. That's it. And just being, it's really like which mind are we identified with? It's like that analogy of the Buddha is yeah, the cracks, the layers on the outside need to crack away, and yes, it does hurt when we're identified with that self, which most of the time we are, until we start to go deeper and deeper in, and then we start to see more of we start to have more and more what we could say are miracles, experiences of the golden Buddha or the golden Christ that we are under the layers, and then we begin to identify with that more of the time. But yeah, I remember my first kind of heartbreak when I was in high school and I was in love with this girl, and then she broke up with me and said that she was having feelings for her ex-boyfriend again. And I remember the day she broke up with me, we went to the beach and she told me that it felt like she just wanted to be friends, and it hurt so bad. I was reminded of that because we watched a movie last night, my friend Jen and I, and in the movie there was a guy, I think the movie was called Stuck on Love. It was a great, beautiful movie about healing and about just...
I just watched that same movie yesterday. Kid you
No
not.
way!
Yes,
Oh my
yesterday for
God.
the first time ever. Because Kirsten put it on her list. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so fun. Yeah, that's exactly why I thought of it too, because Kirsten had put it on her list or her Facebook page like months ago, I think, or weeks ago at least. And we were just thinking, maybe a movie will come in, and then I thought of that, and that's amazing. What a synchronicity. And yeah, you remember there was the guy who in high school, and he had the girlfriend who had a drug problem, and they got together, but then she kind of OD'd and had to go to the hospital, and he was just crushed. And I remember the father saying to him, the first time you get your heart broken is always the worst. It always hurts the worst, and that's because we don't even know, like when we start off on this journey, we don't really know who we are in truth. We don't know of our spirit, so we're just so fully identified with our personality self. And when that starts to get chipped at, when the world seems to start, hammering at it in all the little ways that the universe seems to do that, then it gets cracked and it hurts like hell. And we just we have to but it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary for us to keep getting cracked, so that we can begin to watch how, as layers fall away, there's something that remains. There's something that always remains. There's a self that we are that cannot really be affected, that pure awareness. And we just start to identify with it more and more. We start to see that is the light, that I am the light of the world. And that by offering that light, by just being willing to let that light shine through, we get stronger and more certain. We get stronger and more certain in it. Yeah, and we just got a comment from Eddie, who's watching. He says, the quote, "Hurt is really saying, is this really worth it? Question mark. And an opportunity to choose again, isn't it?" And absolutely, that's it. Because if the moment we feel the hurt, it's really an opportunity. It's really an opportunity to choose. Okay, do I want to kind of feel like a victim? Do I want to reinforce this hurt, and do I want to keep feeling it by thinking and believing that I'm the thing that got hurt, and that something outside of me is hurting me? Or am I willing to choose a new way of perceiving, which generally is outside of our awareness until we've had experiences, until we've begun to start having glimpses into the reality of things. Those moments when our mind just opens and we see beyond the sense of two-ness. We begin to open up to this experience that, wow, there seems to be a me and there seems to be a you, or a something else, and that's what we could call the subject-object split. It's a split in the mind where it seems like there's me and there's you. And in that experience, there's only pain. I mean, there seems to be pleasure that comes too, but really the pleasure is just like a covering. It's like a layer of icing over the pain, because the pain is really a deep sense of loss, a sense of I have forgotten what I am, and I somehow have, it's out of awareness though, the sense of I've lost my spiritual reality, and now I am a person, and that's what I am. I'm a limited body with a personality, and I just have to do the best I can here with all these other bodies and all these other personalities. And that's where, we start to feel that, everyone has this feeling in their heart that they want to be complete. They want to experience a sense of completion and wholeness. And it's always sought for in using egoic means, where we go outward to try to join with other people to get something from them, and try to achieve a sense of union through a horizontal intimacy, or through a horizontal joining. And the thing that's so great about the Course is that it's not telling us to not do that. It's saying, this is what you do. This is what you're trying to do to achieve wholeness. And this sense of trying to achieve a sense of completion through special relationships. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're willing to let me guide the process. Because the Holy Spirit knows that there are certain special relationships that can be helpful, and others that have been maximized already. As we go through time and space, and as we go deeper into our own spiritual maturity, we sort of outgrow certain special relationships, and then other special relationships are given to us for the purpose of helping us go even deeper. For example, that movie we watched, Stuck on Love, it seemed like in that movie there were several characters who were like the daughter, for example, was very promiscuous, and she was basically saying, I'm not interested in love. Love always turns bad, because she had watched her parents get divorced, and she'd had an experience of seeing her mother cheat on her father, and basically saying she didn't care about whether he saw or not. And so from that point, she basically had made a decision that love isn't really valuable. It just always ends in hatred and hurt. And therefore she had decided that she would just be promiscuous. And she met a guy who was basically offering love and saying, hey, I want to be your friend. I want to get to know you. And she spent, the first part of the movie pushing him away, and then finally began to gradually open up, and she could see that there was a deep fear. She said at one point to him, I'm so afraid of getting hurt by you. And he just lovingly said, I'm not going to hurt you. And so that was like an example of a special relationship that was given for the purpose of opening up to holiness. And this is how the curriculum goes. We're basically we have to trust that when things are maximized in our life, when relationships that we have are no longer serving our spiritual growth, that they will begin to fall away, and if we try to maintain them, it will just be like a battle. We will struggle, and there will seem to be a lot of conflict. It won't seem fun. It will feel like it's not working at all. It just will feel painful to try to maintain these past relationships. And it takes a lot of faith to just really, stay with our purpose, to say, I want to awaken to God more than anything. And I trust that if I stay with God and I stop trying to maintain anything in form, then everything that I truly need for my awakening, everything that will serve me, that will nurture me in truth and give me the opportunities that will be helpful, those things will just be given. They'll just be effortlessly given. And there won't be any need to maintain them. It says in the Course that the Holy Spirit will maintain the thing. I'm paraphrasing, but that the Holy Spirit will maintain the things that you need for as long as you have need of them. And so it's not our job to maintain anything. And that's such great news, really. It's like I don't have to manage my life. I don't have to try to presume to know what's helpful and what's unhelpful. My only job is to stay relaxed and willing to open up, willing to go through the darkness to get to the light. And if I'm willing to relax and just, allow the emotions that come up to come up and allow my life to go through whatever shifts and changes it seems to go through day by day, then I can trust that everything is just going perfectly. And in fact, it always is. Even when I do seem to be struggling and trying to maintain something, it's okay too. Like, we can't really mess it up. We can't really mess up our spiritual growth. We can't really mess up anything. It's like we're on our way home. It's certain. It's inevitable that awakening is inevitable, and it just seems that there's a process that we're going through only because it would just be too fearful to awaken in an instant, all the way to eternity. It's so, the state of oneness and eternity would be such a stark contrast to the sense of linear time that we have grown so accustomed to, that it would just be too radical to just wake up in an instant. So Jesus says, you will not be thrust into eternity. It will be a gradual awakening, and it will be a series of stepping stones and stepping stone relationships, which help us to just open our heart more and more and more. And our job is to really just lay back and go for the ride. So that's the good news. That's what I'm here to share. And yeah, I seem to go through phases, every so often, where it just feels like, wow, I'm going into another like layer of clouds and darkness, and it's almost like I think of it as being lifted out of the darkness, kind of like if you could imagine that the separation, the original idea of separation was like this huge belief, we could say, or like an explosion of fear and guilt that just seemed to create, we could actually say make, because the word create is really used more for spirit, but make a whole cosmos that really just wasn't an expression of that fear and that guilt. And then we seem to be caught in it. And now it's almost like we're retracting it back. Like the Big Bang really happened in our mind. And now we're just sort of pulling it back. We're allowing the Spirit to bring all that is out, that we've tried to push outside of us, which is, and which we've tried to push down inside of us too, which is all that's unconscious. Everything, it's really a mirror. Everything we see out there is a mirror of what's in here. And it's all this darkness. And we're just allowing it to come closer to us. We're being open to facing this darkness so that we can go through it, so that we can see the light beyond it. And as it comes closer, it seems quite intense. But then we move through it. We move through another layer of clouds. And the light just gets stronger and stronger and stronger as we move through these cloud banks in our mind. So we can celebrate every single time that we feel like we're going through some big upheaval again, and things aren't going the way that our ego would want them to go. We can celebrate, because it doesn't look good from the world's perspective. But when it doesn't look good from the world's perspective, I can assure you, it's looking good from the Spirit's perspective. The Spirit's like going, yay, cheering us on. All the angels are going, yes, you're coming home, you're doing great. You're getting disillusioned about time and space. It's good to be disillusioned. You need to drop your illusions that there's anything valuable about being a person in time and space. There's a line in A Course in Miracles that says, how can you find joy in a joyless place? Meaning this world. How can you find joy in a joyless place except by realizing that you're not there? I love that line. It's so clear. It's so uncompromising. The world is a joyless place, and it's not our home. And in truth, we're not here. But if we don't know that, if we don't fully know that yet, then the Spirit will just use the symbols that we believe in to help us see that we're still in heaven, that these symbols of love can come in. The symbols of A Course in Miracles is a symbol of love, we could say. The people that we trust, the people who seem to exude love, these are just symbols we're drawing forth to remind us and to keep us going, to keep encouraging us that it's safe, this is all good, and every time you're going through the darkness, it means you're getting closer to the light. And you're just going to get happier and happier and happier. And yeah, there's really no other journey that's worth taking. There's no other purpose to life. There's no other use of time that has any value whatsoever. There's a quote that I put in the description of this hangout. I wrote about how every other journey leads to death, and there's a paragraph that I quoted from the Course that I feel it just really hammers that home, and so I feel to read it. It's in chapter 20. Let me see. Where is it? I had it pulled up here. Chapter 31, and it's in section 4 called The Real Alternative. And the real alternative refers to the Holy Spirit's purpose. It's the real alternative. It seems that we have alternatives in this world, like we can choose between, am I going to become a fireman or a dentist, or am I, when we're a kid, we seem to have all these choices of what we can do when we grow up, or what we're going to study in college, or what we're going to eat today, or who we're going to go on a date with, and who we're going to marry. There seems to be all these alternatives, and these are, what the Course is saying is, these are illusory alternatives, because they all lead to the same place. They all lead to illusion, which is a synonym for death. When you believe in illusions, you've forgotten about your true life in heaven, in spirit, and so you're basically believing in death. So there's this paragraph here that it says, it's the second paragraph in the Real Alternative section in chapter 31. It says, real choice is no illusion. Now, what this means is that the choice between the choice to accept heaven instead of all these other illusory choices, that choice is not an illusion. Real choice is no illusion. But the world, it says, has none to offer. The world has no real alternatives to offer that are real. All of its roads but lead to disappointment, nothingness, and death. That's the line. All that's the kind of that's given it to us straight. All of the world's roads lead to disappointment, nothingness, and death. There is no choice in its alternatives. Seek not escape from problems here. So that's important too. We can't escape from the problems of the world here in the world. We can't just try to run away from our problems. There's nothing we can really change in the world that will free us from problems. This world is the problem. As long as we believe that we're here, we're in the problem. And so the only solution is to awaken from this belief. The next line says, the world was made that problems could not be escaped. So that's really, I mean, you don't really read that in any other teachings. You know, even other non-dual teachings like Advaita Vedanta, they don't usually say things like the world was made as an attack on God, which he says in another place. And in this line, the world was made that problems could not be escaped. The world was not made as a joyful playground or a place to learn to co-create with God like other spiritualities teach. It says, he's saying here, the world was made by the ego. It was made by the part of the mind that wanted to maintain separation, and it was projected out full of hypothetical problems so that we would never escape from the real problem. The real problem is the belief in separation, but as long as we're dealing with problems in form, trying to fix relationship problems, problems with my health, problems with my finances, etc., then it's impossible to see the real problem. And so our task is to keep going deeper into these teachings and be guided to remember that these problems are, it's a really decision in our heart that we're choosing moment by moment to be separate from God as opposed to be one with God. And that's so deeply buried that we can't really just try to jump in and make that decision. We could say theoretically it's possible that one could just suddenly go, I choose God, and wake up. But for most, it's a very gradual process of just beginning to get in touch with the darkness. So the world was made that problems could not be escaped. Be not deceived by all the different names its roads are given. They have but one end, and each is but the means to gain that end, for it is here that all its roads will lead. However differently they seem to start, however differently they seem to go. He's saying all the roads, whatever they seem to do, however they seem to go, they all lead to the same place, which is death. He says here, their end is certain, for there is no choice among them. They're all the same, really. All of them will lead to death, he says. On some you travel gaily for a while, before the bleakness enters. Sometimes we go, yay, I'm starting this new job, and it's going to be great. It's going to be different this time. And there was a sense of hope that we're finally going to be happy in the world. On some you travel gaily for a while before the bleakness enters, and on some the thorns are felt at once. So other roads we start off and right away we can feel it's painful. And this is the last line in this paragraph that I'll read. The choice is not what will the ending be, but when it comes. So it's inevitable that every time we take a road that leads away from ourself, when we're trying to achieve happiness using the world, in the world, trying to find a special relationship that will finally complete us, that its ending is certain. If we could accept this idea, it would save us years and years and years of trial and error, lifetimes of trial and error. If we could just accept that there is no adventures leading out that will ever satisfy us, the only adventure worth taking, the only journey that will ever give us happiness is the inward journey where we go through the darkness to the light. And we're willing to face whatever has been repressed, whatever has been unconscious, and let the Holy Spirit guide us through that. It's amazing. It's just when we actually start to take this leap and experience the miracles, it's amazing. You were just telling me, Dawn, about this, these experiences where you feel like you're going into the mystical awareness, and it's amazing. It's glorious, and that's really what it's all about. We just get closer and closer to realizing that all the time.
Exactly. And then so much of what I'm experiencing on the other side of that is what I'm going through right now. Everything you said rings true. But for me, it's not abstract anymore. It's not out there or some words on a page. I'm really experiencing these fear patterns coming up, and these things that I've repressed, and these things that I've pushed away, and these things that I've wanted so much to run away from. And a lot of the reason that I absolutely adored and loved A Course in Miracles is just this whole notion and idea, which I do believe in my heart is truth, is about the past isn't who we are. It's not our reality. The present moment here with God in this now moment is the reality of who we are. So, as you know, and I think I don't know if I said it on a video, but I was going back for my relicensure with massage therapy. So I have some concrete, real life facing the darkness all over again. So I do all the submissions, everything to get relicensed, do my online application, yada, yada, yada. And I get this email, scribbles on a screen. That's all it was. I literally went from absolute peace to absolute horror in less than a minute that it takes to read an email. And it was amazing just to see how tripped up I get in this notion of the past being real. And obviously there's some part of me that still believes it's true, because look, there it is. I'm on this screen. As David put it in one video recently, the screensaver. There it is. What happened in the email was the application is incomplete because of a drug charge 17 years ago. So what I got to face, and I am still getting to face, and I'm in the now moment of facing it, is, wow, 17 years ago. And something that I want to do. I paid good money to go to a massage therapy school. I did all this training, all this seeming learning from the world's perspective. And yeah, this could be a lucrative job or a lucrative career, or at least something, where I feel like I'm contributing or, being useful to society. And here it is, it's an absolute and total block to the completion, because if you don't fulfill all the requirements, you will not get a license. Then you can get in big trouble for practicing without a license. So here it is. I get to face with Holy Spirit this time around the whole, I think what's coming up for me the most, more than just the getting arrested and the fact that even back then, you know what I realized from all of this? This is what I realized. Oh my God. Because the drug I got busted for was ecstasy. That's the drug. Like, freaking, that's the drug I got busted with. Okay, so here, think about it. Think about my mentality at the time. I wanted that. That was what I wanted. God, bliss, whatever you want to call it, some Satchitananda, whatever, bliss, all love, joy, heaven. That's what Course in Miracle calls this, heaven. And so this state of mind where we're one with God, we're at one with our Creator. And so even back then I was searching. It's like that old song, looking for love in all the wrong places. Well, I was looking for God in all the wrong places. And it's so funny because I get to see that. I get to see, oh my God. I even back then was like this journey of, I want joy. I want peace. I want to be happy. I want to be free. But I just didn't know how to do it. And so now the thing that I notice, and I'm sharing this story really for my own healing, because I know that when I'm healed, I'm not healed alone. But I'm sharing this story because part of my pattern is hiding. So for like, okay, so I was licensed back in 2000. I went to school. So it's like literally been 15 years of lying on an application saying I never committed a crime, was never arrested or anything like that. Because you have to, but recently they changed the law. Yay! Where now you have to get fingerprinted. Yay! So in my fingerprinting, my unique me, it came up. It came up. Yay. So now I get to face, like you said, the whole thing is facing the darkness, right? So this is and I notice the whole pattern. And I even wrote this. I got the chance to, because they say, okay, one of the things is you have to do a self-explanation letter of like what happened, why you were arrested, and all the whole deal. And so I got to share with them, here's the deal, here's what happened. I lied to you this whole time because I was afraid you were going to reject me. I was afraid that if I tell you the truth of what I've done, you're going to reject me. You're going to, and all the schooling and everything I did was all for naught. So in this letter, I got to explain to them that. And so for me, it's like, okay, part of my going through the darkness and into the light is facing these patterns. And the biggest fear for me, and that's why I'm sharing this right now, because I'm literally breaking through this fear right now by putting this out here, because this is going public. Anyone and everyone will know what I've done. And like, this is me coming out of the dark. Like right here, this is an example of real life. I'm putting it out there. This is what I've done. This is not who I am anymore, because now my drug of choice is just God, is awakening, is finding that joy within, is realizing the possibility and the awareness and the truth that the only real ecstasy is being one with God. And so this whole pattern, and also to share it too, because there could be others out there who are hiding. No, you're not going to love me if I tell you the truth about me. I can't let my guard down because for fear of rejection. And that even came up when I was in Camas too, the fear of rejection. So this obviously has been a running theme that I get to face just to see, okay, well, what happens? Let's see what happens. I'm putting it out there. I'm letting the chips fall where they may. And I said that in the letter too. It's like, okay, it happened. This is what happened. Now let's see what's going to happen, you know, because there's two. And that's another thing that I got to learn through all this. Is so amazing for me. And my mystical mind training partner, Lisa, helped me with this too. Is Dawn, it's not about the outcomes. Yes, they can say no. Yes, they can say yes. So there's two options. I'm going to go, and the other hilarious thing where my ego like really was putting me through the fire was literally visualize some future image, some scary future image that I'm projecting in. And this is another way we trip ourselves up big time, is these future images. But for me, the particular future image was I have to go in front of this thing called a massage therapy council. It literally, it's like this group of 7 people who get to judge me. I'm going to literally walk in front of this panel and plead my case, and they're going to be like, yes, or they're going to be like, nope, sorry. And so for me, it's like the biggest fear is like, oh my God, that's what I was afraid of for so long. That's what I wanted to avoid. That's what I was trying to hide from. And literally, I get to face it. So that's where I really felt so powerfully to join in this call, because I don't know if there's other brothers and sisters out there going through something similar or something they've done in their past where it seems like it's wanting to haunt you. And I just want to be a testimony to them out there regardless. Like, for instance, me in my case, whether it's a yes or whether it's no, I'm still a beloved child of God, and so are they. I'm still loved by God. Nothing. My worth is not established whether I'm a massage therapist or not. I could be a bum on the street and God will still love me. He will. And that's my message, because ultimately that's what it comes down to. It's like, do we know who we are? And then are we living it? Do we know that we're that love? And are we living it? And if we can't live it, if I'm a massage therapist and I'm not exuding love and I'm not being the love, it's for nothing. It is shit. It is not anything worthwhile. It's and I don't even care if I was making like $50 to $100 an hour doing a massage. It literally means nothing. And if I don't know who I am, it means nothing. So this is all really great because I get to learn so many things. I get to learn, what it is to face rejection, and that's part of it. And I just want to be that for other people, to remind them and just be that post-it note for their soul is, look, whatever you've done, you're not that. There's so much more than that. And yes, it does seem as if in this particular world you do have a past. But I want to be that person that says, okay, well, let's use that as a springboard. Let's use that as a springboard for our own awakening. And that you don't have to go it alone. And that if it brings up shame, if it brings up embarrassment, if it brings up fear, all of that can be used, every single last bit of it. For me, it's just the rejection. The shame too, because it's hard for me to admit that to other people. Look what I've done 17 years ago. But if we can really just own it, like, okay, that's what happened. That's where I was. That was my literal thinking at that time. That's how I thought to get along in the world. And just to see how far, we've come. So thank you for letting me share my story, because that is a perfect example of going from the darkness to the light. And it does seem, at least for me, to be part of the journey of this is the way awakening looks. It's getting down and dirty sometimes,
Yeah. That is so good. So good to share all that. So good to hear all that. That's it. That's the example. For anyone who's watching this and wants to know what we're really talking about, that's it. That's the illustration. That's the demonstration. That's the courage that it seems to take, the willingness to just hide nothing, to be willing to be seen through. And it's so frightening. There is such a deep and profound fear of rejection that really is this fear that God has already rejected us, and now we will be rejected by the world as well. And it's amazing though how we start to see that when we're willing to expose it all, and it always is a matter of guidance in terms of whether we're really meant to tell certain people about things we may have done or not done in the past. That always has to do with guidance and just being willing. But as long as there's a sense of looking within at the fear, I mean, our job is really just to sit and face the fear, and just like you were just saying, Dawn, it's more important, it's more valuable to know who I am in truth and to stop hiding than it is to get this job and get the things that seem like what the world would say is valuable. Nothing the world values is valuable. Nothing. Absolutely zilch. Nada. Zero. It has no value. And if something isn't meant to happen, if something doesn't come to us easily and without a sense of having to strain for it and try to maintain it as well, if something's not coming in a sense, in a way that feels like it's just given by the Spirit, then it's not going to help us. It's not going to help us in truth. It's not really going to make us happy. The ego offers many, many gifts that it says will help us, and we just have to work to get them. And we have to, and you may have to, the ego says you may have to compromise. You may have to do some things you don't really want to do, but it'll be worth it. That's what the ego always says. But if the means don't match the end, if we have to compromise our happiness in order to get happiness in the future, something's off. We have to just say, my purpose is to be present and to be in this healing process. I like to think that we're in therapy all the time. Really, this whole spiritual journey is just a big long therapy session, and as long as I can just stay in that state of humility and openness, and not trying to be in charge of my own awakening, but just trusting that it is unfolding at the perfect pace. It's being orchestrated. It's not my job to figure it out at all. Then everything that seems to come my way and that seems to happen through me will be all that I need. There's nothing else that will be needed. And it just takes, that story that you just shared is such a demonstration of that kind of trust, and it's beautiful that you just shared it live to the whole world here. I think that many people who watch this are definitely gonna benefit from that. And we just got a comment here too from my friend Lori. She says, "Hi guys, love y'all. And then her question: what if you feel? Oh, wait, maybe I'll select it, and maybe I don't know if it shows up on the screen or not, but." Anyway, here it is. What if you feel you are getting guidance to do things in form, like taking yoga classes and changing your eating? Is this just ego thoughts for an outcome, or is it possible it would be guided? Thank you. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, it definitely could be guided. I think, in fact, that's how guidance works. It gives us steps to take that we don't really know what they're for. We may be guided to go take a yoga class because there's someone who goes to that yoga class that we're meant to meet who will be very instrumental for our healing. That could, that's one. Or it may be that someone has been living very, being very, what could we say, lazy in their mind. They haven't been attentive to the spirit, and they're guided to go to a yoga class to start to be more, to train their mind to just into a sense of discipline. You were going to share something, Dawn?
Oh, it's just like one of my habits is that the ego just loves is isolation. Like if I had my way, I would just be by myself in my room all the time, not having to deal with the world. Literally, it's my way of, I think, the old school method of the cave analogy. And so I think this analogy of, can we get guidance for yoga classes and different things, is because it literally helps us come out of our shell to join with our brother. So, I'm just saying that could be an option.
Yeah, exactly. It really, the only way we can know for sure is by asking ourselves, well, what is it for? What is my is there some agenda that I have for like a future outcome? And if there's a future outcome agenda that's going on, then that would be an ego purpose. And sometimes there can be like a mix of them. The ego can kind of jump in. Like sometimes the spirit would give guidance, for example, to go to a yoga class, and then the ego jumps in and goes, yeah, that's good. Then we can get in shape, and we can look better and have a stronger body, and then we can feel like a better person, and it'll kind of try to add on things. When we live in spiritual community, when I lived in spiritual community, there was a term we would use called add-ons, which is a helpful idea, a helpful term to keep in mind, because sometimes we'll get guidance from the spirit, and then the ego will add on to it. It will, like if we're guided to go to the grocery store, for example, to pick up milk and bread, the ego will say, oh, while we're there, let's pick up some candy as well, and let's pick up, and maybe we'll need this for later, and it'll start just adding on to the things that it'll add on to the guidance to complicate things, basically, to slow us down. And we just have to be vigilant in our mind and willing to keep asking that question. What is it for? Is there a fear underneath this sense of motivation? If I'm motivated to do something, is it coming from does it feel like it's just happening involuntarily, like I'm, one thing I think that's really been helpful for me is that guidance has always felt a little bit like it's pushing me outside my comfort zone. It always comes with a little bit of a nervousness for me. There's usually a sense of excitement and inspiration, but also some fear. and it's like a fear about doing it. And yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of tune in and know if something's guided or not. Is does it feel like that? Does it feel like I feel like I don't have any control? Like I'm being kind of almost like I'm being pushed into this new way of doing things, but it feels outside my comfort zone, and I'm a little nervous. That would be a good sign that it's guidance from the Spirit. Or does it feel like something I'm hoping will happen? Like I'm wanting to have this happen because of something I think it will give me in the future, which would kind of be a red flag that it's coming from the ego. So,
Or even let me use myself as an example. I totally got guidance to go for the massage therapy again. I mean, it was peaceful. I felt really good about it. It's the first time in a long time I had felt like, yes. And I would just kept asking Holy Spirit, and every time I would get a complete, full-on yes. And for me, it does seem in the world's eye that there is an outcome. Yeah, like she'll have a job. Yes, she can contribute now. She can pay some bills. She can, whatever, fill in the blank. But for me, what I can see is, I know now, Holy Spirit's using this whole thing to help me unravel from fears. Fear of rejection, fear of the, coming out of hiding, and all kinds of things like that. So what we think it's for is not necessarily, Holy Spirit's like, yeah, go ahead, go right along. You go right ahead and go for that. Meanwhile, he's using it for your awakening. So that's another thing that I've noticed has literally been happening with me, following guidance.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes the Spirit will give us guidance, and then the ego will come in and say, "Oh, well, you're just doing that because you just want to get more money, or you just want to get more." Like for me, when I started having the idea to do these Google Hangouts, it felt like it was uncomfortable. It would be outside my comfort zone. It was something I had done it before, but I felt like this would be a whole new way of doing it. Like it was coming from a new I don't know, like a new Erik, so to speak. And yet the ego is coming in going, "Oh, you just want to, be famous. You just want to, get your name out there. You just want to get more attention. That's why you're doing this." So it would try to kind of sabotage by it was like the spiritual ego, we could say, the ego that knows the course, because the ego has been studying the course right along there with us, and the ego can use the course principles, and the ego can talk about the ego, saying, "Oh, you're just following your ego," to keep us from doing things that are actually guided. So it always takes a discernment, and I feel like the most helpful way to know if something's truly guided, the only way I can really feel sure, is if I join with someone who I know has they really don't have any interest in whether I do it or not. They have no attachment to it, but they love me. Like if I join with someone who I know loves me and who I can trust will be unbiased. They don't have an agenda about whether I do it or not. Then I can usually get a clear reflection back on really, like they can usually see more clearly than I can where it's really coming from. So I've been doing that for years. Just every time I felt like I had a big decision to make about my life, I would join with somebody, usually David, and say, "I don't know if this is guided or if this is my ego, but this is what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think?" And sometimes he would say, "That feels really great," and other times he'd say, "No, that doesn't really feel like it's necessary right now." And so it was just a helpful link to have him as a link for learning discernment and learning to trust in what I was feeling more and more, getting more clear on those little distinctions. So yeah, really, really helpful stuff. Well, it's 12 o'clock, and so I usually do these for about an hour, so it feels like this could be a good closing. Did you have anything else, any other ideas you wanted to share Don? No? Okay. Okay, well, thanks so much everyone for watching, and yeah, I love this journey that we're on together, and I love sharing about it. I love this. Yeah, just the it feels like we're all in this together. Like there's just so many of us around the world now who are really just taking the plunge and saying yes, yes, yes. I'm going for it. I'm going for God, and we're all like kind of linked up, arm in arm, and like in a big circle, and we're doing it together. So yeah, thanks for tuning in to this video, and feel free to reach out. Like we said earlier, feel free to reach out. We're all here to just serve each other and be used by the Spirit. So thanks again. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.